seems like the hall is emptying out, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. My name is Haven Benedict. I'm a 4th and 5th grade learning support teacher at Greencastle Antrim Elementary School. Can you hear me? Okay, good. I'm not from Epic, but I filled out a form and told Epic that I was going to talk about them in my presentation today, and they sent me this cool shirt and stickers and the lanyards that I passed out. But if you didn't get, I do have some stickers up here on the table if you didn't get one yet. So I have a short link up here for you guys if you'd like to access my presentation. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time actually in the slides. I'm going to actually be visiting some websites that I use in the classroom. So the slides are more of a reference for you so you can see what I'm going to cover, and if you want to go back and reference, there's also some links inside the slides. So if you want to go back at any time and reference them, you have that. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing when I think about what technology I use in my classroom, I think about how many accessibility tools that I use. Now, I'm not going to demonstrate all of these things for you because I think there's a couple sessions on accessibility, so I'd recommend if this is something that you're not familiar with, check out some of those sessions. But if you have an iPad in your classroom, these are a few things that I do in my classroom, in my learning support classroom. We ask Siri questions, we ask her to spell words, we ask her to open apps just because it's cool. We use the dictation feature, and also the speak selection and speak page is really helpful for a multitude of things, reading off of the website or reading writing that they've done. And also there are some great alternate keyboards. So one that I use on my classroom iPads is the read and write keyboard. And I think that I have that noted in a later slide, but it uses the open dyslexic font if you would like it to, which is really handy to have. It highlights the vowels in different colors and does a variety of things. So if you have students with learning disabilities, you might want to think about what keyboard you're using with them. There may be one out there like read and write is very helpful. And then another accessibility tool is using Adobe Acrobat and this Adobe Scan app. If you're not doing that, then definitely investigate how those tools can help your students access paper worksheets. Is for the most part what I would use it for. Now, if you don't have iPads and you can't do those things, here are some things that if you have laptops or Chromebooks in your classrooms, here are some things that might be helpful for you. And I'm actually going to leave my slides and maybe come back at some point. But Read and Write is created by a company called TextHelp, and it is helpful for a couple different things. You can pay for it, but most of what I'm touching on today you don't have to pay for. They might have some premium versions, but you can get away with the free. So you just Google Read and Write for teachers, and you enter your teacher email and you can have it for free. So Read and Write is in the way I'm using it, is a Chrome extension. It's a purple puzzle piece with RW up here on it. And when you click on it, it opens this toolbar. Now the paid version does a lot of different things, but I just use it for having text read aloud to students on a website or like you see in Google here.
There's some interesting creatures that have unique diets, habitats, and behavior.
So you can go into your settings and you can change the colors that it gets highlighted in. You can change the voice, the speed, all of those kinds of features. The other thing that is really helpful about the Read and Write is if you're practicing fluency, they have this little guy at the far end of the toolbar there that if you highlight a text, it takes you to this new page where you can record yourself reading the passage, or maybe your piece of writing that you just composed. You record yourself reading it, you can listen back, and then you can send it. So that's just like a really quick, easy way, and it integrates with Google, which I think is pretty handy. So that's the Read and Write. They also have like a math. If I don't use this in the classroom because I don't teach math, but they have a math extension to something that starts with an E, and I'm not going to try to pronounce it. Yeah, Equatio. So talk to her if you want to know more about that. it's definitely worth looking into. And there's a gold version that has like a picture dictionary, and if you want to spend the money, you can have predictive text on your laptop, right? Because the great tool of the iPad is the predictive text is automatically built in. That's not built in when we're using a laptop in most cases. So if you do want to pay for it, it will do predictive text for you, which is a feature that some students do really benefit from. Okay, that's read and write. Next thing.
Real quick, I was at their booth today and they're offering free trials for school districts for the rest of the school year.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's fantastic. You love it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, that's great. I'm glad it's not only me then. Great. Okay, the next thing I wanted to highlight, I'm just going to jump back because I want to make sure I'm not skipping anything. Oh, let me go over the Chrome extension real quick. This is another one that would be a free Chrome extension that some people don't know about. It's called Select and Speak. I couldn't find it when I went back to the Chrome web store, so just pick one of them. I'm sure it will work. Just pick, if you just type in Select and Speak, you'll find one. But you highlight the text you want heard, and then you hit play.
Each zebra has its own unique pattern of distinctive structure.
I've noticed it does lag a little bit, but then you're on any site and it will read back anything to the student. So Chrome is handy for those extensions that you can find there. Okay, and next thing I wanted to touch on, so I did kind of let's talk about how you might use, here you can use Read and Write here in Microsoft, which is handy, but Microsoft has some of its own tools. So if you don't know about them, the one's called Immersive Reader, so hopefully you know about this. If not, I'll just pull it up real quick. So Immersive Reader does a multitude of things here. First, you can change your text preferences as far as text size goes. You can change the background, so for students possibly with visual impairments or those that need a color overlay, you'd have that here inside of Word. And the other thing I wanted to point out were their spacer. So it will separate syllables for you. It will do a multitude of things. If you use all of these things, I would be truly impressed. But some really, really great tools inside of Microsoft. And I think this comes with a lot of the Microsoft apps, not just Word. Okay, second thing. So a lot of times we'll have students that might not have great handwriting or be able to write or need assistance. Maybe they have a worksheet, but the writing becomes a frustration for them. So there is an extension and an app called Cami, and it's very handy for filling out a worksheet, but students can't type in here. And then they can also draw as well. So a lot of tools. Adobe's a great tool for this, but this would be a nice web-based app for you to fill out worksheets. It talks to Google. You can save it. You can download the files once they complete it. And again, there is a paid version that lets you do text-to-speech. Adobe on the iPad lets you do text-to-speech for free onto a PDF. So
you upload your PDF to this website, like do you make an account and you upload the PDF and share it with the student?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would open the file that I'd want them to complete, or I would send the file to them and they would open it.
In Cami.
Yeah.
So do they have to create a text box and then type in it? Is that like, so but the reason I ask is because with Read and Write, they have the same kind of feature.
Okay.
Like, that's part of what we pay for.
Yeah.
So when we can open it with Read and Write, then they have to create a text box for the kids.
So you click on text box and you can put your cursor anywhere and click. You don't have to click and drag and then type.
So, but when you made this, you already created the text box there? Oh, okay.
I'm not sure if I understand your question.
So like where it says in the, and
Oh.
yeah.
So what I have up here is, this is a PDF that I created in Pages. And that is just a blank line that I drew out with I keyed a blank line out. you could click anywhere. It's not a fillable form.
Right, it's the same, so it's the same concept.
Yes, yes, yeah.
What I usually do is I just put type your text here so that the kids just click and then they just type in there.
Gotcha,
So I don't have to.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. And so right now I'm doing literary essay with my students, so, they were just thrilled about it. So, I made this placemat and printed it out for them as kind of a guide. So, let me zoom out here, so I can show you the whole thing. So their writer's notebook goes in the middle, and then I wanted them to have all the parts that they were gonna put together. So they use the appetizers to write their introduction. They pick a sandwich before they, as they transition into each paragraph. Then they have to write 3 entrees, which are their 3 supports, and then they end with dessert. So this was just an idea from last week that I put together quick and decided to share it with you guys, and was just hoping that it would be a nice scaffold for them as we worked through literary essay. So, but Cami, you might be able to explore if they do some free options for teachers and the paid features. I think they're all fairly affordable, but I know not everyone can afford to do that. So, okay. Okay, next thing, let's talk about Bookshare. Is Renee here? Good, this part's for you. And I'm sorry for making the elevator beep at you. So Bookshare, does anybody can you raise your hand if you use Bookshare? Okay, so I think people don't use Bookshare because it doesn't look nice. That's my guess. Like, I'm not sure why more people aren't using this. Every school that I go into and mention it, nobody's heard of it. So Bookshare, it's an e-library, and it's for students mostly with print disabilities, hearing disabilities. There's a list of who qualifies. And what happens is at your school district level, you have someone who is at the organizer level, and then under them are the teachers, and then teachers add students. It's pretty quick and easy. You fill out a form. If your school district isn't associated with Bookshare yet, you fill out a form, and then that, probably your special ed director, maybe, would be your organizer. They would add all the teachers that want access to it, and then teachers add students. And you do create a login for your students. And this is super helpful as I've been looking for audiobooks for my students. This is super helpful if you want a textbook read out loud. I had somebody at our local VOTEC need a vocational textbook read out loud to a student, and it was on Bookshare. So, for example, I'll just show you what it looks like here and try to pull up. I can create reading lists, and here's a reading list. We're doing a February-March book club. Here are 2 book club books that I needed students to be able to just listen to, and it's above their instructional level, but we wanted them to be able to participate excuse me, in the discussion. So I assign the book to them, or they can go onto Bookshare and find books for themselves. Okay, but let me move this along, because those are kind of all the tedious details. But what this actually ends up looking like, I got Crenshaw. I just got an audiobook for, if I remember right. You just have to look and see what they have. It's not extensive, but I have been very, very, very impressed with what they have. So say I want to read this book by Pi, and so I'm going to send it. I want Kira to read it, and so I end up sending the book to her, but I can also download it and view it. Oh, here's from when I downloaded it before. I was hoping it was going to pull up and let me view it. Let me go back, and I'm going to try Crenshaw. Yeah, so it brings up the text of the book, and it lets you read along. And give me a second, further along than I thought. it will read it out loud. It will highlight as you read it. It's good for visual impairments because you can make the font really large. Okay, so if I hit read now, okay, not yourself. Okay, I'll be glad to show you at the end. I have Kira logged into my iPad as we were doing this, so I'll log in as her on my iPad and I can show you what it looks like. But this is something that she could do at school or at home and log in. She can view the text of the book and it will highlight and read the book out loud to her. Like I say, the big thing has been that it's totally free. It's at no cost for students with disabilities, like visual, physical, learning, print disabilities. Yeah.
Oh, this is as learning disabilities. And so with Learning Ally, it opens up another window for the kids to read books. Does it open like another window, or is it kind of like? I mean, I know you're having trouble, but
Yeah.
Is it another app like that opens up?
We've been using it on the iPad.
Okay.
I've not been really using it on a laptop. On my iPad, I use Easy Reader is the app on my there's a couple, Capti or Capti and Easy Reader. You log into those apps and then you connect your Bookshare account to that app, and then from there you can pull books off of your Bookshare bookshelf. So I see that someone must use this because it exists, but I haven't found anyone who uses it. Like I said, like textbooks are on here, which I think it would be extremely helpful for like those old textbooks that you don't have a digital copy to, which people are out there using them. So anyway, so this is Bookshare. There's a lot. The website has great instructions. Like I didn't have any help setting up our district in it. I just read the directions on the website and everything was pretty self-explanatory. And you can create, let me just go quick. So the students are called members. So like when I created Kira's here, it let me type in a username for her and a password for her. So I used her typical school username. I typed in her lunch pass number. So the login would be the same for her. And it asked me what her qualifying disability was. I put learning disability and had no problems.
Do you have to document that anywhere?
So the form that, I think you just have to become a qualifying organization. There's like one form to become a qualifying organization, and I filled it out and then have my director sign it. You just follow the steps on here. It's pretty easy. We send it in. As long as you are a qualified organization, which a public school is, I don't think that there's anyone checking up on it.
I teach ESL and I'm just thinking this would be a great
Oh
tool
yeah,
with them.
yeah, definitely.
But that's not
Definitely.
disability.
Yeah, yeah,
Do you
yeah.
sign up every year for it, or is it once you
No.
sign up you're in?
I think once you're in, you
Okay.
have it. Yeah. Yep. I haven't. Now I'm not our special ed director, so I don't know if she has gotten anything to renew it. I'd have to double check.
Okay.
But not as far as I know. And I've had this account. I think this is the second year I've had this account under the school that I'm currently at, and I haven't had to renew it. So it's definitely worth checking into. It's not the prettiest thing. Like I'm warning you, it's not like, it doesn't have the bells and whistles. So that's just a warning to you. So, but it's certainly worth checking out, and I think can be supportive for a lot of different populations for sure. Okay, so the next thing is Epic. If you don't know about it, it's a free digital library, free for students to use at school. Students love it, in my experience. There are books, they can read them on their own, it can be read to them. There are fantastic videos that will support some science instruction, social studies instruction, math instruction, right? And students think that it's like a YouTube video, but they're learning something, right? And the other thing, Epic just has audiobooks as well. You add your students in your roster here, you can assign them books, and you can see who read what, or if they haven't read at all, there's some assignments, there's some quizzes after they read, and you can get all of that data back. If they want to read at home, it is not free, unless you like tweak. Someone said you can tweak with the time zone that you're in, which that just seems complicated. But it's a great school resource, and for those like that have kids whose parents are teachers, they're good to go because they could use it at home. So definitely check out Epic and grab a sticker if you want a sticker after the session's over. Something else I incorporated into my classroom this year have been podcasts, and I'm not an expert. I just literally Googled educational podcasts, and the one that I'm using right now is called Kids News, and it's about 5 minutes long, and they talk about goofy, dumb, silly stuff that kids love. There was one on Minecraft. There's stuff on music and pop culture and like weird animals that they find in remote places of the world, and they talk about them, all kinds of weird things that kids just enjoy. So, and then there's comprehension questions after you listen to the week's worth of podcasts. So don't forget that these podcasts are out there and might be a great tool for your class. There's also fictional podcasts out there, and the one that we started to listen to, thought it was on here. We started listening to this one recently called The Two Princes. So it kind of reminds me of Adventures in Odyssey. I don't know if anybody listened to that when you were growing up. But it's like that, and it's like listening to the radio in the car, but I think it's a great way for students to be exposed to good fluency and vocabulary and all those great things. So you can do your own search. Here's a research piece for you that lists 25 podcasts, and it's something different. It's not a video, it's supporting those auditory listening skills. So you can certainly feel free to check out podcasts. All right, I'm gonna save presenter mode for the end, and I'll try to get my iPad up here, presenting for you guys. I'll show you a couple things on my iPad. I came around this and I thought this was pretty cool. So someone made this, and you click on the and then button, and it brings up emojis, and you have your students write a story, including all the emojis. Or I'm sure you could probably think of a million other ways to use it, but I thought this was neat for those kiddos who have a hard time generating ideas on their own, or even just telling a sequential story on their own, where maybe it will be 2 sentences and then the story ends. So this might be a good way to hook them in with a visual supporting a story, or whatever else you might think about using that for. Just a unique thing that I came across and wanted to share. So I struggled the first year in this role. I struggled with grammar, and somebody recommended the Patterns of Power book. Is anybody familiar with that? You'll have to Google the author. I don't have a very good memory, but Google Patterns of Power. It's a workbook. It's pretty affordable. Then I was like, my students need a little bit more of a scaffold to work through this grammar guide. So I made this Patterns of Power student guide, and you can get it here, or if you can't find it, I put it in the Pete and C app. I linked it there. So something that my students struggle with is just the basic foundations of writing. So these are the Patterns of Power, and we talk about one per week. Like the first week of school, we talked about I capitalized names, and we looked at a whole bunch of sentences that had the names capitalized, and then this was their check-in at the end of the week. They had to write a sentence where they capitalized names. And if they didn't get it right, I give it back to them, and they fix it as many times as they need till they can write me a sentence where they capitalize names. So there's like 70 pages, and this one has every pattern in the Patterns of Power book. So if you're looking for something for grammar, that is just a super simple, hey, we're going to do this grammar skill this week, and it's something super basic and simple that anybody can like jump in and teach. I'm terrible at grammar. So this is a really nice, super basic way for you to teach it, to your kids, and get them to practice. Like on the back end of things, they're actually practicing writing the sentence. You're not fixing any sentences in this program either. It totally goes away from looking at a sentence that's incorrect. Right? It's looking at sentences that model good grammar usage. Okay, and then I already talked about this. And I do anticipate maybe creating placemats for every unit of our writing that we do together to try to scaffold and support students. But you can certainly have this. I shared it as a PDF. I can share it in the Pages format if anybody wants it. And you can certainly steal it and put in all your writing units or whatever else you can imagine for that. So, okay, let me see if anybody have thoughts on the easiest way to get my iPad to project? Yeah.
On the iPad?
No. Like I'm thinking I should be able to AirPlay somehow, right?
But you don't have a
Right? I can't. Okay, I'm gonna use Zoom. Then, if you want to does anybody have questions? And then I think I can use Zoom to share my screen with you from my iPad. Does anybody have questions about anything that I shared?
I just need that, your page that has your power.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, because I want to show you, I'll show you a few things here on the iPad. So it's a bit.ly link, Sped and Tech 2020. Alright, I'll try to start a Zoom real quick here. We'll see if I get lucky. Hold on a second. I can do this. I did this once for a board meeting. So I was lucky enough to be invited to present for our school board. And I wasn't sure if I was going to have an Apple TV. So I do know this works. If you want to move about to another session, I would not be offended.
Splashtop, you can download a program that takes
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
you have to download it.
Gotcha. Okay, so far, it's telling me it's gonna record my screen. That is not what I want. Alright, one more try here. And then I will. So, I'll talk real quick here. Oh, yeah,
You just gotta share your screen from Zoom on there.
okay, should I start the meeting on my iPad? It doesn't
You're
matter.
joined on both places.
Okay, so if let me do new meeting.
Then join the meeting here.
Okay, so now I'm gonna open up Zoom on here. And I'm gonna join the meeting. Alright, and then I can share screen. No, I think we'll be okay. Will let me think from here. Okay, yay, thank you so much. Okay, so real quick, I wanted to show you Pages. Well, let me show you the alternate keyboard here real quick. I'll pull up Docs. Here's my notes from the sessions here. So this is the read and write keyboard, and there's the open dyslexic font on there, and you can see the vowels are highlighted. So I talked about that. I wanted to show you guys that. The other thing I want to show you is in Pages. And Pages can be a teleprompter, and I thought this would be neat. I haven't used it yet, but I thought that it would be neat for a variety of things. Maybe you write like an informational piece of writing and you're having students present, but your learning support students aren't comfortable memorizing something, or even reading off of a piece of paper might be a disaster for them. So let me go back here with something on it. Oh, here, this story probably won't make any sense, but I want to say I want to have Dream present this to the class. So you tap on the 3 dots and go to presenter mode, and then it becomes a teleprompter. And you can turn on the auto scroll, and you can tell it to go fast or slow. And then you just tap your screen, right? And then his writing will come up across the screen, and he could read it out loud, right? He could be reading and like recording a video. He could just be live in front of his audience. I'm sure you can think of a million different things to do with this. He'll be so excited that you all saw his writing on Terminators. Okay, anything else? Any questions? Yeah. Yes, that's in Read and Write. Yeah, yep. And that's in the paid, oh, she left. But yeah, that's in the paid version. I want to say if you're used a couple years ago when I joined Read and Write, teachers maybe got a year for free.
Okay.
So, I'm trying to think, I don't know of any other picture dictionaries, except for if you're in Google Docs, I think you can highlight a word and then hit Explore.
Okay.
You might be able to find an easy way for images that way. Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Alright, if you have anything and you want to come up and chat with me, I'll hang around for a little bit. Otherwise, thank you guys for coming. I think this is the most people I've ever had attend one of my sessions, so thank you guys for being here. Hopefully, you're able to walk away with 1 or 2 things to take back to your students. So, thank you. And thanks for the tech help. And in the thank you. Here, I'll keep this link up just in case anybody didn't get it. I'm glad I'm done.
The book share is free. Sign up, and then within the district itself, so any teacher can upload or get access to a book. And you can partner with other districts and do, or no?
You know what, to be honest, as long as they, like, if you know a district that has book share, like, I could add you as a member. Like, if you need, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I could put in your email address as you as a member.
Okay, and then so the school district buys the book or the books are all free?
They're all free.
So I clarify that.
Yeah.
Now emails get this.
Yeah, no, like, yeah, just assign somebody to be like the book.
Well, I was filling it out and then I was like, wait, I should probably double check before I do that. But yeah.
Yeah, but no, it's all free. Yeah, no, there's not cost associated with anything. Some things are like just PDF. A couple things that I came across were just audiobooks.
Okay.
Most of it opened either in like an iPad, opened in like an easy reader app, or the one thing I think when I was logged into I didn't show that, but I got when I was logged in. I was in there. Okay. Then you can open it.
Gotcha. Okay.
Everybody, I think we're gonna get started only because, we got a quick turnaround here. The next place is what? Okay.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Danielle Heron. I teach 6th grade math at Elizabethtown Area School District.
And I'm Chantel Delaney. I'm a 7th grade ELA teacher in the school district of Lancaster. So thanks for coming to our session.
So we actually started working together this summer at the Keystone Technology Integrators or Innovators Summit at Shippensburg University. And one of the things that we did there was we came up with a wonder project, and we all individually talked about things that we wondered about, and a lot of the people who had like-minded ideas came together and then had a project that we came up with. So ours was centered around creating relationships with students and ways that we can build camaraderie with students and a family in the classroom and relationships and things like that. So our group of stars came up with the idea of having a website for students with resources available to them for how they can start to support their own mental health. Trying to get over the stigma of mental health and trying to make sure that they are aware that they can start doing things to help themselves. So we came up with a website that we'll share today.
So if you attend professional development, you know everybody's talking about traumatized students and students who are dealing with mental health issues. And if you're in the classroom, you know that that's happening every day. Kids are coming to us and they've got issues that they need to process through and work through. And when they come into you with all of that going on, it's really hard to have them put all of that aside and start talking about, you know, what the latest literary strategy is that we're going to be talking about in ELA that day. So one of the things we did was we started doing some research, and we found that the National Association of Secondary School Principals said that many of our students today are facing undiagnosed mental health issues. Our schools aren't currently set up to support them as much as they need to. I know the schools are working on bringing in additional therapists and social workers and things like that, but for right now, we've got kids who are hurting sitting in front of us, so we wanted to come up with something that we could do to help them.
So according to mentalhealth.gov, there are some things that teachers can do to support students with mental health. And one of them is to educate staff, parents, and students on the symptoms and ways to help for mental health problems, promoting social and emotional competency and building resilience, teaching and reinforcing positive behaviors and decision making, and encouraging helping others. So those were some of the ones that we decided to pull out and focus on through the website. So there's some things that you'll see as you take a look at the website. There's some things that you'll notice and things we tried to focus on to create a positive experience for students. The other thing that I wanted to share was I recently was in conversations within my district about it was a K-12 initiative on life-ready learners. And it was K-12 teachers who had come, and we had the opportunity to all talk together, which is a rarity, as you guys know, in education, to have teachers of all levels together talking at the same time. And the common thread that was throughout all of us was the concern for mental health in students of all ages. And exactly what Chantel said, which is how do we teach students, you know, academics when they have so much going on outside of school. And so we're hoping that this kind of bridges the gap for those students.
Right, until our schools can come up with systems that are helping everybody. You know, right now, if you've got those tier 3 level kids, they're getting support, but we've got lots of others who aren't. I don't know how many of you saw this, but a couple of years ago, this was an Upworthy story that was printed about an elementary school teacher who came up with this great post-it idea where the kids could go up and put their colored post-it with their name on the back under how they were feeling each day. Well, I don't know how many of you are middle level teachers in here, but for me, if I tried to do this with my 7th graders, they'd laugh in my face and I'd end up with post-its probably stuck all over the back of me with things written on them. So, but I love the idea. I love the fact that kids can come and let their teachers know what's going on and how they're feeling, so you know to check in with the kids who are struggling. So I started talking with some colleagues and figuring out what can we do to help those kids. And so I came up with this. And this is just a very simple Google form that I've been using for about 2 or 3 years with my students. In the beginning, I just had it kind of saved on the classroom cart set of iPads that I had there, but this is just something that the kids can access. Right now, we're one-to-one iPads, so right now all of my kids have it saved on their homepage. And what they do is they just go in, if there's a kid who's having an issue, and we practiced it at the beginning of the year, and I talked about the kinds of issues that they would be having that they could talk to me about, and I told them if there was anything in there that they wanted to tell me that if it was serious enough, I was going to have to talk to the counselor about it or refer it to the appropriate person. But this was a resource that I shared with my kids so they could let me know what was going on privately without other people knowing. And it took off. I have had, I don't even know the number, but like there was the first month and a half, I think I had 53 responses. And it's great because in a Google form, if you're familiar with it, you can get individual responses, so it's the kid's name and then how they're feeling, but you also can look at it overall and look for trends in how kids are feeling. So that has been a great resource for me. Some of the things that they share, as you know, are heartbreaking and shocking and sad. And I've gotten some great contacts and I've set them up with some therapy and counseling through our school counselors, so it's really been a great resource. So when we shared this at our Wonder session, we agreed that that was maybe something that we could put into our website that we created, so that is part of it.
So this is what the website looks like for the middle school. You can see, this is just the link is down here, but this is just the middle school page, but at the top you can see that there's actually sections for each of the different levels. So in our group there was 6 to 8 of us, and there were people from each grade level band. And so each of us took kind of a section that we wanted to focus on and to create resources for that particular age level. So the elementary group decided to split it into 2 levels because obviously there's things that 3rd and 4th graders can do that K to 2nd graders can't do. So the K to 2nd is focused on mostly like pictures and different activities that they can do to calm themselves down when they get frustrated, or different things like that. And the elementary 3 to 5 has a little bit more of the upper level elementary type things. Ours in the middle school focuses on things that you will typically see with students in the middle school. So they're dealing with a lot of change in their lives. We have a section for academics where, do you need help learning how to study? Do you need help, finding resources for studying? There's TED Talks in there that we thought were really neat things for students to have access to empowering things. So there's different sections. There's one for bullying, fitting in, family and home relationships. The number of things and the wealth of things that students at the middle school level are going through and they're able to process in ways that they weren't able to process at younger age levels just seems like there's so much information, and we just kind of wanted to funnel it into one place for the students to be able to look at. So the other thing, we're going to give you guys a moment to look through the website, but one of the things that I added since we did it over the summer was a wall of encouragement, which is essentially just a Padlet that students can post things, so that if students come back and look at it and they're having a rough day, they can just go look at it and find an encouraging quote or an encouraging word from a classmate. And those comments have to be, I set them up so they're approved by me, so it's not just random stuff going up on the wall, but I had students share like fun quotes or messages, so you'll see some of those up on the wall when you visit the website. So we're gonna give you time to navigate it, but we have like 2 or 3 more slides, and then we'll give you a chance to take a look at it.
So, you know how sometimes you come up with an idea you think is great, and then you share it with your kids and it's complete dud? That happens to me way more often than I want to admit. So what I did was, I have a very challenging homeroom this year, and so I actually, this was some data I collected from them. So I created a Google feedback form, and I said, hey guys, I want you to play around with this at the beginning of the year. Just play around with it, give me your feedback. And these are kids who do not buy into anything until it's really something that they believe in. And so there were 19 kids, I think, who ended up, 18, who ended up filling it out, because probably 5 of them didn't want to. So it was shocking to me to see how many of them, so the question was, what do you think you're gonna check out? Like, out of all these things, what's the most, riveting to you? And the number of 7th graders who said stress and anxiety, that's what I need help with. Think about that. I know when I was 12, I don't know that I would have been able to pinpoint that. So I just thought that was some interesting data. And then here's another one, some of the things that they think they might check out sometime. The daily check-in form got a lot of votes. The kids really seemed to like that, and as I said, I get responses. Probably now I'm getting maybe 6 or 7 a week, and I teach about 75 kids. So I have kids who are kind of regularly sharing with me, even about each other, things that are happening at home, things that are happening with friends, things that I normally wouldn't, when I have kids coming in and out every 52 minutes, things I wouldn't be able to talk to them about. and they are sharing with me, so I found it to be a really great resource.
The kids also really enjoyed the Google drawing. So one of the things on there is draw your feelings, and so a lot of kids like to draw when they're upset about something. It helps them get it out. And I showed it to my class of my top math class, thinking that they have a lot of the stressors that maybe they stress themselves out. And they all received it extremely well. I had kids who said how awesome it was, they loved the drawing, but also had feedback as far as like, can there be more interactive stuff? Can there be more stuff for us to like do? And so that's good feedback for us to hear because we can go and improve it as we move along.
Yeah, and this is definitely a work in progress, but we found it to be valuable enough that we wanted to just kind of talk about what we were doing. So, these are some of the quotes that the kids gave back to me as their final, here's what I think about it. And then the last slide is, if this is something you're interested in, if you'd like to check it out and play around with it, we have it there with the QR code, brings you directly to a site where you can request.
Yeah, so if you know of a way to do this, I couldn't figure out a way to make Google sites automatically make a copy. And so the only way that I could figure out over the past couple weeks was to just have you guys request access to edit it. And this is like, I've made multiple copies of it, so this is the copy I made just for here. And then once I give you access, if you can go in and duplicate the site, what it'll essentially do is, it's like anything else when you do Google form, you do a Google and you make a copy, it'll take the entire site and make your own copy of it so that you can personalize it for your students. If your students have specific concerns based on, whatever concerns they have in their, things going on, you could add those things in for you. We'd be happy to hear what you add to it. If there's things that you'd like to share that we could put up on to ours, we would appreciate it. But otherwise, you can take it, make it your own, use it with your students. And we can't speak too much to the other grade levels, although we could talk to them if there's something specific you had questions about regarding younger or older grade levels. We could get in touch with them and kind of hear what they had to say and what else they've come up with since the summer. So basically, we just wanted to give you guys some time to explore. We'll be here. If you have questions, feel free to ask. We'll walk around and otherwise just explore. Do you guys have any questions? Go ahead.
I had just a couple specific to the check-in form. Would love to know two things. One, when you're looking at those trends, right? So you've got the 57 responses from the beginning of the year. If you have those trends, do you ever use that to lead a discussion, community time, or a restorative circle?
Yes.
At the beginning of class?
Yeah, I'm one of the restorative trainers in my building, so I do circles with my kids about twice a week, and we do that very frequently. There's a lot that my kids are giving me that we can talk about. So that has been a great tool. That's a great question. What was the second one?
The second one is just, is there a way for you to respond back in a way that doesn't feel like to the kid that you're approaching them face to face, but a comment function or a chat function in the form? I know that there's not typically.
No, I actually handwrite notes, and like I'll call them up to edit a paper or something. I'll have the note written and just hand it to them, or and they like that. I've actually seen some of my notes that I've written back to kids like up in their lockers. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just, and it's a nice way to just take a moment with them too. But you have to be really sly about it because if you, it's usually just a quick post-it or index card and it's back to them.
And the first day that I did that, the check-in form, actually, I had a student who just wrote down, like, it was right after lunchtime. He was like, I didn't get a chance to eat lunch today, and I'm so hungry. And so I, like, found a snack for him. Like, this kid is, like, not going to do it. Like, when you're hungry like that, it's terrible. So I found a snack, and his face, like, lit up. And just being able to have that communication that if I didn't have the check-in form, there's no way I would have known that unless unless he said it out loud. So I think that's an invaluable tool in and of itself.
What has your parent involvement been like, and how has their response to this been with kids disclosing information?
I have not had any direct contact with parents. Typically, if it's something that's a serious enough issue, I refer it to the counselor, and then the counselor does any parent contact that needs to be done. That's how it's worked for me thus far.
Yeah, I usually work through the counselors. If it's something that I feel like is more more of an issue that the counselors need to
So like
address.
our school has a SAC we have a SAC team, so we'll make a referral. It's a Google form and you fill it out, you can fill out for any kid and you submit it and the SAC team evaluates it and then they make the phone call home. But there's been some backlash that why are these teachers who have no background in guidance or psychology making these assumptions and making these referrals about my child? And there seems to be a disconnect of the good intentions behind it. To set up sources to help rather than like provide like punishment or a negative, yeah.
That's a shame. No, I haven't had
Okay.
anything, but that's something that really should be addressed, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I haven't rolled this out with my students like on any large scale. I really just had them look at it and kind of use it a little bit. But ideally within my school, what I would like to do is sit down with the guidance counselors and say, how can this be something that we utilize and make sure that it's, I had that same idea, like I don't want to be held responsible for a parent to say like, why are you showing my kid this resource when that's not something that I would have necessarily wanted them to see. So I felt like it's something that it should be something that is more openly discussed within our building and the administrators know about it and guidance and things like that. So I definitely think there is an element, especially at the middle school level, although I mean the reality is kids can Google, so they have access to technology, so we're just kind of trying to funnel them into resources that are valid, decent resources. So
I just had a follow-up to that, very much related, but what's the preparation at the beginning when you're introducing the check-in form regarding like just telling kids that like if it's something serious I'm gonna have to take that elsewhere, like the disclosure, how does that look?
I actually did it in a circle.
Yeah.
I did. I do a lot of circles the first couple of weeks of school to build that community, especially with kids that aren't my homeroom because, there's less time for that. And so during that, I just kind of talked to them about, how much I care about them and want to support them and I understand how many issues they have. And so this was just a way that they can let a caring adult in the building know what's going on. I promised them that I would read everyone and address it and that I would, obviously, as teachers and mandated reporters have to, if it was an issue that was above my head, that I was going to have to report it. And the kids, by the time they get to 7th grade, I've found that the kids get that. They know that if they're in danger, we have to let somebody know. So my kids have been really responsive and have shared things that I have had to go and report, but it's worked out well.
Once your kids know that you are referring like serious issues, did you notice like an increase in responses or a decrease in responses?
Yes, and I don't know if that's because I work in a high needs school where there are kids who are kind of desperate for that adult contact and for people to support them, but we have 2 guidance counselors, they're really busy, and so our kids almost sometimes, I find they use it as a fast track to get an appointment with the counselor, like, oh, well, I can tell Miss Delaney and then maybe I can get in to see the counselor quicker. So, I've seen a couple of those things. I'm having drama with my best friend and that kind of stuff, but there has been an uptick. It's pretty popular. The kids, like I've heard kids talking about it in the hallway, like, oh, you should tell Miss Delaney, you should go use that checking form and tell Miss Delaney and she'll help you do it. So that's kind of a cool thing that the kids know, because middle school, they're just kind of these, faces passing you in the hallway sometimes, and for them to know like there's a teacher who's going to do something and there's a way that they can get their voice heard, I think gives them a little bit of power. And once you get a chance to look at the website, actually, can you click on the link really quickly, just so they can see for people who might not have devices with them? I would imagine anybody at a tech conference would have a device with them, but the link.
I don't know the.
Okay. Yeah. So if you go to like any one of the sessions and you scroll down, so we've got little descriptions for each link, so the kids can kind of go through and read and be like, oh, well, here's an issue I have. Let me go and listen to this podcast, or let me go and work my way through this Nearpod, or let me go and check this YouTube video out. So they've found some of the stuff in here and gone through it as well. I've had kids talk to me about a TED Talk that I put up there, and some of the kids came to me like, I really like that. Thanks for putting it up there. So I don't know. As I said, it's a work in progress, but we found it to be a tool, and we just thought we'd share with anybody else who's interested. Yes. Right now, it's just me in my building. I spoke with the head of counseling for our school district, and she is aware of it, and I've gotten the go-ahead to use it with her for the district. I'm sorry. Yeah. Any other questions? Thank you all so much for attending. Appreciate it. You were clapping? Good job, us.
Can you kind of give me a summary of what I missed? Because I teach pre-K through 8, and we have one counselor that's there part-time, and it's so hard to reach these kids.
Yes.
So hard.
Here, you're
So
ready to
I'm
pull it up?
sorry that I
No
you know
problem.
what? I was in that room waiting for you to start, and I said, oh no, you're in the wrong room, you're next door.
I'm not as familiar with these, but I know like K2, like they like just pick their this is like pictures, so they have like pictures.
So is this like a website?
So yes, it's a website that we created.
That we created.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
is
there was
that
actually
your barcode that I got?
it is. Yes.
All right.
And then if you just
Sometimes it's the best look.
yes.
So this just helps them, you can go to these
So the
websites.
kids should go and click on this if they have an iPad or something, and it's little games they can play to talk about how they're feeling, or watch videos, or play match, learn about their emotions and things like that. So these are things that our K-12 kind of specialists would in. You can see they use the safe.youtube link. So there's that.
Another teacher at my school and I, we started a publisher called Stress-Free Students. Okay. Where we have my son and things every other week.
It's just a club you said. It's not online.
No.
Okay.
Well, it is online, it's an online school.
Okay.
But it's just something that we kind of like shifted and passed it, I don't know. So.
What grade level did you say?
7th grade.
Okay. And the kids have received it well? Like it's going
We have like 7 that are really into it. Some of them are, I remember I had to cancel one.
Okay. And they're upset, I bet.
And for some reason, I was like, no.